Hey guys, today we're going to tackle a major problem with Minn Kota trolling motors, specifically the Fortrex. It's known for having issues such as the trolling motor not latching by itself and locking by itself, to noises and lots of different things that can actually hinder the performance of your trolling motor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the process of changing out the rear pivot brackets and the bushings and making sure that there's no play in the Fortrex motor. Of course, this actually kind of turned into something that I really wasn't expecting because I did a lot of research, at least on how to do it. I ordered the replacement parts well in advance, and I ended up actually accidentally deploying the spring, which is under pressure, mind you, while I was working on the motor. It's okay, I didn't get hurt, I just got a little bit of a cut. It could have been a lot worse, but I wanted to produce this video because A, there's a lot of people that are trying to do this on their own, and two, it's actually a really simple job, and you know what, things can happen along the way. So I'm going to take you through the journey of replacing Minn Kota bushings and pivot brackets, and let's go ahead and get started.
Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and change out these pivot bushings and the brackets here on Minn Kota Fortrex motors, and even on the old Trexes. If you don't have a buster bar that's installed that goes down onto the carpet, this motor mount takes a lot of pressure, especially in rough waves. So what's happened here is that these are starting to wear out, and now the motor kind of shifts. And the first problem that you'll notice is when you go to deploy your trolling motor, it actually doesn't lock down on its own. It starts to kind of have to start pressing down on it and doing all that kind of stuff. And then once you actually look, what we're going to do here is we've taken off these 3 Phillips head screws here on the side. I'm going to pop this off. Is now you're actually looking at the pivot bracket itself. The 2 screws here, they're gone. Okay, the actual heads of these screws broke off. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace those guys. And of course, we got to get this other side plate off. We're going to strap the mount down because this is spring loaded, and then we'll take the trolling motor off, and we'll be able to get here and replace these guys. Since I'm doing this by myself, I'm going to go ahead and just do one thing at a time here. So I'm taking off the side plates first because I'm going to have to strap this mount down since it is spring loaded. So I want to get these out of the way. So 3 Phillips heads on each side of the covers. Apologize, the lighting's not the best, but it's about 8 degrees outside, so we're going to keep the garage door closed. And there'll be one small screw on this back side here. It's a little Phillips screw on the back side. Alright, so before I go any farther, I'm going to go ahead and strap this mount down. So the next step here, there's these Allen head bolts, or the rear pivot bracket bolts. As you can see, those guys are broke. So far, this pivot screw has been just about a nightmare to get out. It's almost there. So 3 of the pivot screws were broken off at the head, and I've heard that that's pretty normal. So if you're in that situation like me, then it is what it is. Make sure to order the pivot screws. I'm going to have all the parts in the video description so you guys can link through and check those out. It's not very expensive at all. There we go. And there's one pivot screw. Okay, so the next step is a 1/4 inch Allen wrench or a hex key on the top, and you're going to remove the bolt and the washer. And that's what those look like. Alright, so now I'm going to have Jen push down on the mount, and I'm going to lift up on the motor. So you go ahead and push down on the mount. Okay, now so make sure that mount doesn't fly back at you. Alright, so now that we have the trolling motor off, these are the pivot screws here on the end that we have to loosen up so we can get this pin out. And you're just going to sit here and spend a little time with the Allen wrench and think about all the crazy cool fish you're going to catch this year. So this is the upper arm here. There is one, and you can see, man, these things are just demolished. Well, this has turned into something because I let that spring pop out, and now I got to get it all back together. And really the only way I can see to do that is to let these screws out on both sides here. Alright, so now since I deployed the gas spring on accident, I'm now having to take the pin out of the gas spring up here so that I can shift everything together and get this part of the trolling motor set now. So life continues on. Alright, so I got the pin out of the spring up here, so now it's time to work on these guys. So what we're going to do here is take the bushing off here, the bracket. You want to make sure that the pin is pointing back towards the driver's side or the console of the boat. So that's how that guy is going to go right there. We're going to do the other side. Once again, we got the bracket. It's going to be flipped this way with the bushing on top. But you got to put the bracket in first. Slide around here. We also got some new plastic washers for the arm. They look like this, and these are going to go right inside here. So we're going to take, might need a little bit of a flathead screwdriver. Do the other side, because now that arm is going to go here between the two brackets. And remember our pin, it's going to go straight through here. There we go. So that pin's in there now, and we're going to tighten these guys down. Alright, so these new and improved torque head screws are supposedly a lot stronger. I think they do say you can use some thread sealer here. I'm not going to, because if I have to do this again, I do not want to have to use a blowtorch or drill these things out. So I'm going to go ahead and just put these in here. If you decide to do that, then that's all on you. I totally understand if you want to do it, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to screw these guys in nice and tight. There's 2 on each side. So ideally, this all still would have been loaded on the spring, and at this point, it'd be very, very easy to put the trolling motor head and shaft back onto the mount and secure it with the Allen head. But Obviously with the spring deploying, I now have to mess with this in order to get it back to where it was. So what I'm going to have to do here is, and this is where probably a second pair of hands is going to come in handy, is now I'm going to have to put the spring and the screws back in here and then be able to also push them out down to once again keep this under pressure with the strap. And what I'm going to do is push this back down and strap it. Just like that. Alright, so make sure these are good. Brackets are good. Everything's tight. So now we can put the trolling motor back on. Okay, are you good?
Yeah.
Just don't let it come all the way up and hit you.
Yep.
Alright. And as you can see now, these new brackets and bushings, there's no play in this mount. Before, my trolling motor would actually move because these pieces here, for one, the screws were broken off at the head. So that allowed this entire thing to shift up and down. So brand new brackets, brand new bushings, the upgraded screws, and now we'll get the side plates back on, and this trolling motor is ready to rock for another day. Alright, so now it's time to put side plates back on. Once you fit it on there, you've got your 3 main Phillips screws. Just like that. And then there's also an inside screw. It's really hard for me to get to show you on camera. Last but not least, we're going to put back on our nose cone here. It's definitely testing my strength doing all this with one arm, holding up the trolling motor because I have such a tight fit with the swing tongue on the boat. And now she's done.
Alright guys, so as you can see, that job was pretty simple. It turned into something a little bit more. It certainly helps having a second pair of hands if you do have a friend or a wife around who you know, can certainly help out with this particular job. You know, I'm going to have a list of everything that I used in the video down below. I'm going to show you where I bought the parts, the replacement costs, all that sort of stuff. So go ahead and look down below. But if this video helped you, please, please, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I absolutely love connecting with people across YouTube who love to fish. So thanks for watching. Dan Rice, FHCOutdoors.com. We'll see you guys on the water.